As Bill Pinkney entered his office for the last time, he saw shock in the faces of his co-workers and heard anger in their voices. On most Fridays, friendly greetings echoed the plant. Anticipating the weekend, workers normally waved and smiled across chest-high dividers. This particular morning, they clustered in small groups, whispering amongst themselves as though the world had come to an end. And then the news hit. What? I've been fired? You must be joking. Pinkney couldn't believe his ears. He went to his office with a sense of dread. A long envelope from personnel lay on his desk, with his name typed on it in bold print. That morning, along with several of his co-workers, Pinkney learned that his services, though valued, quote unquote, by his employer, were no longer required. Imagine, after nearly 30 years of tireless duty for a major Chicago-based cosmetic firm, this 57-year-old black man was just the latest statistic in the never-ending corporate battle to trim costs and improve efficiency. Though his employer was simply reacting to economic downturns within the health and beauty aids market, Pinkney felt cheated and defeated. He had struggled up through the ranks, from an hourly worker in research and development with Revlon to a well-paid makeup consultant with Johnson Products, gaining promotions and admiration along the way. What he lacked in terms of formal education, Pinkney more than offset in industry know-how, touting a wide range of experience. It hadn't taken him long to prove its worth, and although he'd heard rumors about layoffs on different occasions, no one really believed the day would come. The industry seemed safe. Pinkney, along with many of his co-workers, felt blessed to have a job that was so secure. He felt his position would be around for a long time. Then, out of the blue, reality hit me, Pinkney sadly remembers. After all those years of hard work, they just handed me a pink slip and it was over. I was loyal, talented, and committed to the bottom line. I even took work home to meet deadlines, but none of it seemed to matter. Dear Mr. Pinkney, we are sorry to inform you that by mid-morning, Pinkney had said sad goodbyes to old friends, collected his belongings and severance check, and boarded the train for the long ride home to face his wife and reorganize his life. He was heartsick with disappointment. What was he going to tell her? What was he going to do? Stuck with no job and no income, and with little to tide him over, he could only visualize himself pounding the pavement, searching for work. And then it happened. I was caught in the mathematics of life. As the train neared his stop, Pinkney's life flashed before him. He began to think of lost opportunities gone by, of all the empty dreams he had entertained since childhood. Throughout his adult life, he had never given much thought to his career or to finding the work for which he was best suited. A job was a job, any work that came by his hand was good enough for him and his family. He reflected, I was raised that when you graduated from high school and you got a job at the post office or on the railroad, this would be your lot in life. You couldn't hope for anything more. But Pinckney wanted more. It all seemed different now. He leaned his head back against his seat and tried to frame the moment. Yes, there had been anxious, unhappy times before, even bad times. Pinckney had lived through a childhood punctuated by poverty. He had been raised by a mother who worked as a domestic until a rheumatic heart forced her family onto welfare. His father was nowhere to be found. His family had moved from place to place in downtown Chicago, searching for any apartment his mother could afford. But he had never lost faith in the future. And now, as he grew older, as far as his dreams were concerned, it was do or die. I always wanted to leave a legacy, Pinckney admitted. A sort of benchmark to prove that I could do anything that I set my mind and heart to. Though I never followed through, I've known exactly what I wanted to do since high school. As I shared my dreams with others, I heard all the excuses. I was exposed to all the naysayers who said, "You're black, you're poor, you didn't go to college, you don't have a father, it's a white man's world." Here I was 40 years later. If I was going to realize my dreams, it was now or never. I was caught in the mathematics of life. As a friendly reminder, he carried with him a poem by Johann von Goethe, the 18th century German writer, given to him by a high school classmate decades ago. Pinckney had committed the verse to memory, not knowing the magic that it held. Are you in earnest? Seize this very minute. What you can do or dream you can, begin it. Boldness has genius, power, and magic in it. Only engage, and then the mind grows heated. Begin, and then the work will be completed. There could be no better philosophy for anyone, regardless of what problems or circumstances one may face. Stunned but not beaten, Pinckney wasted no time with self-pity. By the time he got home, he had decided what he would do with the rest of his life. A solo voyage around the world by sailboats. He would fulfill his high school dream. The greatest discovery. Ideas are the most important things on earth. Each of us has his or her own idea mechanism. It comes as standard equipment at birth. It's the mind of all Homo sapiens. A baby is born, and we hold in our arms a miraculous living creature whose potential is unknown. What will enter that astonishing brain? And from those ingredients, what kind of life will this child fashion? The greatest discovery is the realization of our own potential. The secret to extraordinary achievement is exploiting that unknown potential. We become what we think about, but the thinking is up to us. the degree to which people regularly underestimate their capacity for accomplishment is immeasurable. Curiously, we think nothing of the accomplishments of others. That is, what others do, we tend to take in stride. But when it comes to setting goals for ourselves, we tend to play it safe and thus remain within limits that are embarrassingly low and narrow. So if we already have a job, even one with minimal demands, we will usually shun any efforts to prepare ourselves for more attractive opportunities or any sudden emergencies, such as the loss of that job. Each night, we watch the news broadcast the latest corporate cutback or plant closing. Without exception, a reporter will ask an unemployed worker, "What are you going to do now that the facility has closed down?" 9 times out of 10, the reply is the same. "Well, I guess I'll just have to wait for it to reopen." Or, "I've worked in this plant for 20 years. I don't know anything else." Here are men and women behaving like cattle that can graze in only one pasture. And if that pasture is no longer there, they will simply sit down and waste away. In those 20 years, a person could have become a skilled surgeon, a master chef, a fashion designer, or even a rocket scientist. It is totally up to you. Pinckney set out to capture his dream. His plan was to circumnavigate the globe the hard way, not through the man-made Panama and Suez canals, but by passing below the world's 5 southernmost capes. There was another angle too. He wanted to help teach thousands of urban school children the value of commitment and self-discipline by sharing his voyage with them by radio, computer, and videotape. Pinckney's journey would require more than character. He would need equipment, supplies, and financing to offset the costs of a journey that would cover 27,000 miles and last 2 years. The Chicago native worked day and night on a series of part-time jobs. As a manager of a local bakery, his wife Ina provided some financial stability. In time, Pinckney began to lure investors. Old Navy buddy Bill Cosby heard of Pinckney's plan and referred him to Armand Hammer, former head of Occidental Petroleum. Hammer was receptive to the idea. The philanthropist gave the project clout and much needed seed money. Pinckney then launched a massive letter writing campaign to raise the rest from corporate donors and individuals. It was like a political campaign, Pinckney says. Over a 5-year period, he raised $400,000 from an array of corporations and individuals that ranged from Motorola, which outfitted his boat with a satellite computer system, to a partnership of investors that included writer Maya Angelou. Before setting out on his voyage, Pinckney filmed 2 just-in-case videotapes. One was to be shown to students if he became missing at sea. The other, if he was killed during his journey. I explained that I knew there was an element of danger before I started out, he says, and that was the price I agreed to pay for pursuing my dream. On August 5th, 1990, Pinckney kissed his wife Ina, untied his 47-foot sailboat, and headed out of Boston Harbor for the world. For the next 2 years, he and his boat, the Commitment, plied the seas, facing ocean hazards he had only read about, gale force winds, icebergs, and 600,000-ton oil tankers. But the toughest part of the journey was the solitude. When there are high waves and strong winds, you gotta act. But when it's quiet, boredom is difficult to fight. During each one stretch, Pinckney sailed for 65 days without seeing another soul, passing away the hours by reading motivational and inspirational books, mostly the Bible and Shakespeare, 150 titles in all. In March 1991, Pinckney had to put in for repairs in Tasmania before continuing on the most harrowing part of the journey. The automatic steering system had broken, and he'd stay awake for 6 straight nights. Back in the States, 20,000 students tracked Captain Bill on the classroom maps in Chicago and Boston public schools. The Commitment docked in 5 ports around the world so Pinckney could replenish supplies. He sent the schools video postcards of himself dancing the toi-toi with Zulu tribesmen in South Africa and visiting a Tasmanian devil park in Australia. Don't let anyone ever set your limitations, he counseled. Know what your dreams will cost and be willing to pay the price. Inspired by his adventures, students mailed him letters, built model boats, studied navigation, and wrote reports on the countries he visited. The human spirit, the triumph over fear and doubt, an unshakable determination to succeed, the new dynamics of achievement. On June 9, 1992, they all came together in one unforgettable moment. After 2 years at sea, the Commitment docked again in Boston. Pinckney arrived home a hero, cheered by thousands of school children, teachers, and friends. He became the first African American to sail solo around the world and only the 41st sailor ever to complete the journey. In comparison, more people have scaled Mount Everest than have sailed around the 5 Great Capes. His voyage made him as lean as an Olympic athlete and spiritually grounded him for good. He has acquired a quiet confidence and a sense of vision. When you're out there at sea, your concern is survival, he says. From that experience, I've learned about leadership, discipline, and perseverance, and not to sweat the small stuff. My horizons are different now. More important, he now knows what makes the great great. He knows who succeeds and why. Listen carefully as he describes the process in his own words. Don't wait. Now is the time to fulfill your destiny. We must act with courage, look forward with hope, and view life through a lens that defines what can be done rather than what cannot be done. If you are willing to work and never quit, you can make your dreams come true. What does this message mean to you? Bill Pinkney's personal victory was a triumph of spirit and hope, a win over fear and doubt, frustration, and the odds. The new dynamics of human performance. It's an achievement we can all admire. More than that, it's an accomplishment you and I can learn from and use in every area of our lives. What's the secret to discover? It's being able to place yourself in the state of mind that Pinkney achieved as he sailed the 7 seas. It's a special place that only peak performers inhabit, where there is no past and no future, only the exhilaration of the moment. Success isn't due to luck or chance. Real success is a matter of finding yourself and building upon what you find. Every person is born to star at something. The point of your life is to discover your purpose. It makes no difference whether it's to be an athlete, a top salesperson in the office, or a provider for your family. Greatness means doing more than you or anyone else thought possible. What does Pinkney's story mean to you? Will you be caught in the mathematics of life? Elbert Hubbard, the old country philosopher, wrote, "Upon every face is written the record of the life the man has led. The prayers, the aspirations, the disappointments, all he hoped to be and was not, all are written there. Nothing is hidden, nor indeed can be." Robert Browning, the 19th century English poet, concurred. He stated, "When a man's fight begins within himself, he is worth something." With its beautiful imagery and its emphasis on improvement, the Bhagavad Gita states, "A man's own self is his friend. A man's own self is his foe." What do these messages mean to you? You who find your life trapped within a sea of hopelessness. You, black man, black woman, who view racism as an insurmountable obstacle. You who seem chained to a dead-end job, living far beneath your potential and possibilities. You, young student, who struggle for an education in an increasingly violent world. You, single mother, who wish to make your life and home a centerpiece for your children, but can't seem to make ends meet. You, absentee father, who have heard the pleas from your wife and children, but fail to bear the title of husband and provider. You, the addicted, who stagger beneath the weight of your addiction and life-threatening habits. You, the afflicted, who are burdened with the stress and strain of your disability or incurable quote-unquote illness. You, the underclass, who desperately search for meaning and purpose in your life. You, the corporate climber, who by now have discovered that the glass ceiling is really cement. You, the entrepreneurial hopeful, who can barely muster the faith to face another day, and who continue to pour out your very soul. And you, the misled, who have followed one false prophet after another, preaching his own brand of religion, when you should have turned within and worked out your own salvation. What does Pinkney's story mean to you? The answer should be obvious. It has been a part of your being since inception. After all, you were directed by earth, wind, and fire to keep your head to the sky. Hope. You could see it in the eyes of Fannie Lou Hamer. You can read it in the words of James Baldwin. You can hear it in the saxophone solos of John Coltrane. You can feel it in the lyrics of Otis Redding's Try a Little Tenderness. You can sense it in the tender melodies of Babyface. You can recognize it in the comedy of Richard Pryor. You can detect it in the oratory of Maxine Waters. You could perceive it in the command performances of Mahalia Jackson and Kathleen Battle. And you know it's in the strut of Deion Sanders. What does this story mean to you? It means there's hope. There's always precious hope. Today is Judgment Day. Throughout the ages, humanity has been taught to prepare for and even fear the Day of Atonement. In various teachings, our Creator is portrayed as a whimsical and changeable. According to tradition, each of us must answer to an omnipotent power who, on the one hand, rewards acts of faith and kindness with eternal bliss, and on the other, punishes less than admirable conduct with wrath and damnation. This day of reckoning has been called, among other things, Judgment Day. In the face of religious doctrine and dogma, few have caught the real significance of right and wrong, of good and evil, of Judgment Day. As we experience life, each of us undertakes a personal quest to uncover greater meaning. In our quest for personal fulfillment, we ascend the ladder of truth regarding our own spirituality and individual possibilities. In the process, we are bombarded with constant choices that only we can make based on our level of understanding that will determine our destiny. Choose you this day whom ye will serve. Joshua 24:15. As a result, every day is a day of judgment. Today's Judgment Day, for example, is the result of past thoughts. Judgment Day, in reality, is the day on which your thoughts become things. Like a living magnet, this is what constantly draws to you people and circumstances in accord with your thinking. What you experience today, Judgment Day, is a reflection of your consciousness. In essence, if you hope to experience a different Judgment Day, then think different thoughts. Stated in his own words, Pinckney's story is the saga of a man who decided to seek fulfillment of his dream, a different kind of Judgment Day. And what a dramatic tale it is. I have related Bill Pinckney's story to emphasize that each of us will one day come face to face with the prospect of embarking on our own fantastic voyage. Nearly penniless and with nothing more to guide him than sheer desire, this powerful soul set out to find true meaning in his life. Do you really wish to change your life for the better? Are you hoping and praying for a change? Then realize, regardless of your circumstances, no matter the condition, all is not lost. Life is not hopeless. Never give up, never give in, or give out. Don't wait for that miracle or that break or the right time quotes. Life is short. Don't wait. Today is your day. Choose how you will spend it and whom you will spend it with. Don't put your personal greatness on hold. You are responsible for your own results. You hold within your hands the key to a more meaningful life, a roadmap to higher tomorrows, a nugget of truth in the midst of confusion, a valuable blueprint that will enable you to restructure your future. Read it, study it, then get into action. For starters, there are some tough questions that you must answer. Are you dissatisfied with your present status? What new habit must you start that will bring you closer to your goals? What must you stop doing because this old habit is pulling you away from your goals? What must you change in order to move toward where you want to be? What makes the great great? There is a quality of personality that many successful people share. No matter how they may differ, there is an attitude, a quiet assurance based on self-knowledge that says, in effect, I've been tried in some tough situations and I've passed the test. I know who I am. The successful share a special power. They conduct their affairs with a sense of purpose. Their priorities are clear, and they orchestrate the events of their lives with a masterful touch. High achievers move smoothly from one phase of their lives to the next. No motion is wasted. In the ancient African tradition of sharing oral history, the griot told vivid examples of greatness to which future generations could aspire. They demonstrated the attributes that make men and women heroic. In other words, what makes the great great. There is a condition or circumstance that has greater bearing upon the happiness of life than any other. What is it? It is one of the most common things in the world and within your reach. If this secret were for sale, oh, how rich you would be. A sunken ship, a buried treasure, an unsolved mystery. Why are these objects so appealing? Because within you is an innate desire to solve the mystery that leads to your own personal hidden treasure. Only the wise can guess its contents. Some might say it is health, or money, or special relationships, but you may possess all of these and still not be content. You may have fame and fortune and yet allow happiness to elude your grasp. Yes, there is one thing more necessary to a happy, fulfilling life than any other. What is it? What makes the great great? This secret of wealth and success has remained hidden for thousands of years. Since time began, humanity has searched, mostly in vain, for this precious key. It has been found only to be lost again scores of times. The prophets and the mystics of all races have had some inkling of its great powers. Every race, group, and culture has had its wise men and philosophers, its men and women of genius and vision, who glimpsed the truth that is buried in the spirit, but it remains for those who possess an open heart and an open mind to discover this great truth in its entirety, and then to demonstrate to others how they might use it to their benefit. Make no mistake about it. The accomplishments of a few can be achieved by you, if and only when you are ready. It stands to reason that in his name the things I do shall ye do also, and greater things than these shall you do. What makes the great great? The question was placed before Percy Sutton, owner of New York's famed Apollo Theater. Here is a man who is clearly in charge of the direction of his affairs, an individual who was raised to see himself as one of those blacks whose accomplishments would become symbolic beacons lighting the path for those of his race. He counseled, "If you have but one wish, let it be for an idea." What makes the great great? Have you found the key? Try asking Robert E. Johnson, founder of Black Entertainment Television, the only black-owned nationwide cable system. Who would know better than he? Johnson is a man whose hopes and dreams have been singed, but he rose again. Okay. Who would know better than he? Johnson is a man whose hopes and dreams have been singed, but he rose again and again to see another day. Life is a grindstone, he flatly states. But whether it grinds you down or polishes you up depends upon what you are made of. The Reverend Jesse Jackson concurs. He spoke openly and honestly regarding success and achievement. You may not be responsible for getting knocked down, but you certainly are responsible for getting back up. When the annals of black business history are written, Henry Parks and the Parks Sausage Company will likely be listed as major contributors. To Black America, Parks was a legend, a model of self-initiative and fierce racial pride. Starting with every nickel I could scrape together, he launched a shoestring operation, grinding out sausage in a converted Baltimore dairy. He couldn't possibly succeed, but he did. At last count, Park Sausage had more than $20 million a year in sales. Without hesitation, he stood to make his point. In one hand, I have a dream, and in the other, I have an obstacle. Tell me, which one grabs your attention? No barrier could be erected to shut out Patti LaBelle's voice. She believes she was made for the place that she fills. When asked for the secret, LaBelle recalls her father's advice. Since her childhood, she could never be caught without a song in her heart or a melody on her lips. Sing loud, my father always told me, just in case someone is listening. Talent helps, but greatness has more in common with nerve than it will ever with ability. What a great lesson Reverend Ike taught his race on that hard, dusty Central Park bench, toiling in the face of poverty since leaving his native South Carolina for 3 months. Frederick Iron Cotter. Okay. Toiling in the face of poverty since leaving his native South Carolina for 3 months, Frederick Ike Rencotter, Reverend Ike, ate dog food out of cans while reading his Bible and planning for better days. He delved into the book to find precious pearls. He prayed not to have more, but to be more. Not for fame, but to be ye transformed. Now, for more than 20 years, his name has been synonymous with spirituality and prosperity. I asked him for the key to greatness, and he took me off in a totally different direction. Do what I have done, he suggested. Open up a can. The world belongs to those who say, I can. What makes the great great? When asked, Mae Jemison, America's first black female astronaut, was a bit philosophical, choosing just the right metaphor to convey her point. Greatness can be captured in one right metaphor to convey her point. Okay, let's do that again. When asked, Mae Jemison, America's first black female astronaut, was a bit philosophical, choosing just the right metaphor to convey her point. Greatness can be captured in one word: lifestyle. Life is God's gift to you. Style is what you make of it. George Halsey maintained a coiled intensity, ready to spring into action. A former insurance clerk who now holds the highest pen Amway has to offer, Halsey rendered his thoughts. Learn to meet hard times with a harder will. If you'll work 2 years of your life like others won't, you'll spend the rest of your life like others can't. You can judge how great a people will become by examining the quality of the relationships between its males and its women and children. By this measure alone, a people will either rise or fall. This is the test that predicts fame and fortune. What makes the great great? Few people are as qualified as Dr. Alvin Toussaint to discuss the great spirit of the black struggle in America. One of 8 children, this noted psychiatrist inherited no opportunities and acquired nothing by luck. His good fortune consisted of untiring perseverance, an acumen for science and medicine, and the Old Testament taught by loving parents who dared to venture past the 10th grade. Dr. Toussaint peered through the window of his Harvard office and established a point of reference. Morality and values begin at home. If Black America is to continue its greatness, it must take care of its children. Quincy Jones struck the same note. Greatness occurs when your children love you, when your critics respect you, and when you have peace of mind. For more than 40 years, he has built a remarkable career as a musician, composer, television and film producer, and multimedia entrepreneur. His name is synonymous with talent and genius. Cornel West, the best-selling author and college professor, when asked for the root of greatness, repeated the question, paused for a moment, and answered in the manner of a man close to his God. If you want to be great, you must serve willingly and love greatly. Osceola McCarthy lined brown hands, now gnarled with arthritis, bear mute testimony to a lifetime spent washing and ironing other people's clothes. Less evident is how this quiet 87-year-old black woman managed to donate $150,000 to the University of Southern Mississippi, a school she could never attend. Though faced with poverty and ignorance, she never backed down. They used to not let colored people go to school there, but now they do, and I think they should have the money. What makes the great great? This tiny, gentle woman replied in a barely audible tone. Do as much as you can for as many as you can. Now McCarty has left a name that can never die. It's not what the successful do, but what their lives promise that gives hope to our race. Ann Fudge's family is the passion of her life. As the highest ranking black woman in corporate America, she stands shoulder to shoulder with the best and the brightest Wall Street has ever produced. Without batting an eye, Fudge reveals the source of her strength, demonstrating that she is in full possession of the secret. According to this powerhouse, if you're searching for greatness, look no further than your own home. The first real test of leadership, she says, is maintenance of the family unit. Captain Bill Pinkney speaks of faith. Everyone fears something. Though worry and trepidation may crowd your thoughts, there's always room for faith. So if you attempt something great and you find your knees shaking, try kneeling on them. Death wins no victory over such men. What makes the great great? Do you know? The overwhelming majority will never recognize the difference between greatness and mediocrity, between happiness and pleasure. They will never sense true fulfillment, nor will they awaken to their highest potential. Greatness is a mosaic composed of very small stones. Each taken by itself may be of little value, but when grouped together, combined, and set, they form a true work of art, the hallmark of achievement. 9 stones, or mental strategies, underlie all success and accomplishment, all greatness. These stones of greatness to which I refer can be found within each chapter of this book. Fulfillment and personal development come as a result of relating and applying each of these strategies, which in turn will draw you closer to your destiny. A destiny that you control.